Hi, I'm Daniel Young from Cognizant AI Lab, and today I'm going to be talking to you about discovering effective policies for land use planning using neuroevolution. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but let's get right into it. So first off, climate change is a real big issue, despite what some people may tell you, and land use and land use change is a large factor in that. So we can see here from this map that land use change accounts for millions of tons of carbon every year. And that is things like, taking a forest and cutting it down. That's going to emit a lot of carbon. So things like that, it changes to how the land is used. So what we can do about that is we can create a decisioning system that helps us automatically determine policies for land use change in order to, one, minimize emissions, and two, minimize the cost associated with that change. We can do this with our approach called ESP, Evolutionary Surrogate-assisted prescription. And so how that works is we have a context, so how the land is currently being used, and then we have actions we can take, such as, like planting a forest there or planting crops, getting rid of crops, etc. And so what we want to do is we want to predict the amount of carbon that comes from a given change in a given place. And then when we sort of have a predictor model that can do that, that can predict outcomes from context and actions, we can perform an evolutionary search across contexts and find the best actions there that optimize the outcome. So given a place, what's the best action we can take in order to minimize our emissions and cost? And so the results of this are here, as you can see, on this Pareto front. So the x-axis is the amount of change we made, the cost of the change, and the y-axis is the reduction in emissions, or it is the emissions, and so lower is better here. And so we can see here, we have trade-offs where in the top left corner, we don't make that much change, but we don't really get rid of any emissions. And in the bottom right corner, we make a lot of change and we are able to absorb a lot of carbon. So yeah, we can make these sorts of trade-offs using our decisioning approach ESP. There are obviously other constraints to take into account besides, cost and emissions. And so what we can do, the system is very flexible. We can add additional objectives, which is what we do here. So we actually choose to try to minimize the amount of crop that is removed because, obviously we have food constraints. And so, individual decision makers can do things like picking constraints like crops and making sure that we try to minimize our reduction of that as well. So the system is very flexible to the specific needs of a decision maker. On top of that, we can incorporate another really great work that came out of the lab called RHEA, Realizing Human Expertise through AI. And so what we do is in our evolutionary search to find good policies, we can inject human-made solutions first. And so what we did here is we injected a human-made solution that said, don't change anything, and then one that said, change everything to forest. And so what that does is, first off, we get better results. So we can see here on this Pareto front, the top left corner that says, to make less change but absorb less. We couldn't really find that without seeding, but when we seeded it with this human policy, evolution was able to do better. So first off, yeah, it does better. But secondly, we can see here actually it makes decisions more accountable. We can see the amount of DNA in our final population that came from our initial one, and we can sort of see how much this no change seed is, how much of its DNA is in the final population. So what we can do is we can get better results, and we can also make them more accountable, which is and explainable, which is really important in decision making. And so, yeah, that's the work. We have this really nice system for allocating land use in order to make trade-offs on a whole bunch of various different objectives. And it's really flexible towards specific objectives that a decision maker may have. And then we do so incorporating human expertise so that we can get better and more explainable solutions. So yeah, thanks for watching.